Hey, it's Tony Bruschi, and this is our week in review over the weekend, taking a look back at some of the most compelling conversations and stories that we've covered for you of the last week. Brand new episodes back Monday morning, bright and early, 5 a.m. here on the podcast.
The Hidden Killers Podcast.
We're talking about Timothy Bliefnick and the murder of his estranged wife, the accusation that he did it. We're going to go through what evidence has been presented thus far in the case as of our recording of this at 1:16 p.m. Central on the 31st of May. The jury is in deliberation. How long they're going to be there is anyone's guess, but we're going to get this episode out as quickly as possible, hopefully before they have a verdict, but we'll cover that verdict for you as well. Here in the podcast, Tony and Carol Hughes with you on this. This is a case where you start diving into it and the circumstantial evidence keeps coming and it keeps coming. And it's like,
It really does.
Who would be doing these sort of things if they weren't guilty? And we'll get to some of that. Let me share the story of this with you. Prosecutors in Adams County have painted a very chilling picture over the last week of the trial, alleging that in February, in her very own sanctuary, her home, Rebecca Bliefnick was shot not once, not twice, but 14 times. Somebody really needed to get the job done in their mind. When you see that many bullets, it's either a drive-by or it's a crime of passion, typically. Her estranged husband, Tim, stands accused of the horrific crime, facing 2 counts of first-degree murder and an additional charge of home invasion. The couple's story is familiar, yet a heartbreaking tale of a marriage gone sour, a relationship corroded over time by a blend of hurt, mistrust, and anger. Friends, family, local law enforcement have provided testimony in the Adams County Circuit Court, recounting the fractured image of a union on the brink of dissolution. The couple was embroiled in those types of a bitter divorce, leading to the imposition of a court-ordered protection, actually on both of them from each other. Eric Cowick, a detective from the Quincy Police Department, shared some potentially damning evidence in the cases last week. According to his analysis, Tim Bliefnick's electronic devices revealed a morbid interest in a series of disturbing topics that kind of relate to what happened. His laptop contained traces of Google searches on how to pick locks, ways to open windows from outside, methods of removing gunshot residue, breaking into doors with a crowbar, and tracking gunshot rounds. His phone also told a very similar story. This is what is still shocking to me. Someone who's going to go and commit a crime like this, that they're Googling this stuff in a very easy to look up way. Is this just people being ignorant on how their phones work and what people can find? Or what? Because watch any episode of Dateline and I think you'd realize, you can't do that.
I don't understand that because it seems like this happens a lot.
Yeah.
And it seems like in that case, they would have got a separate device that no one knows about and had done the searches or gone to a library, something. Although I'm just giving people who never thought of it an idea. But it's just like, I don't understand it. Like the phone contains so much information. Your laptop contains so much information.
At the very least, search it incognito. Search it in a way that it's not going. I mean, and I know like incognito mode on Google or whatever browser you're using isn't necessarily completely incognito. You can go to your ISP provider and they can very likely tell you what came out of that. Then you get. I could give you 1,000 ways you could do this without
really
being
good
caught.
At giving some people some good
I've
ideas.
murdered so many people in my life. Let me tell you. Oh my gosh, I know how to hide the evidence. Trust me. I'm being facetious, by the way. Further evidence pointed to a premeditated scheme. Tim reportedly used a pseudonym on Facebook to acquire a bicycle that was later found abandoned near his residence shortly after the murder. A security footage sourced from nearby neighbors revealed an unidentified individual riding a bicycle consistent with the one purchased by Tim in the days leading up to the murder. However, the defense, led by attorney Casey Schnack, has remained steadfast in their contention that there's a considerable lack of concrete evidence tying Tim to the alleged crime. Schnack argued that the bike in question was never definitively linked to Tim, saying the state believes that the bike used in this crime, they look at the handlebars, or they took the handlebars off, hoping to find fingerprints or DNA to tie it to Tim, but the lab results found no trace of Tim's DNA or his fingerprints. Okay, we'll also keep in mind if the bike's out in the elements for a couple days, a lot of that would also be gone as well. Schnack also contended that the search logs from Bliefnick's electronic devices lacked a crucial element, a timestamp. In his words, the evidence was dripping with reasonable doubt. I don't know how, I don't think most people search for those things in any point in time, and even more so if you're connected to a possible murder. More disturbingly, the trial saw a picture painted of Rebecca as a woman living in a constant fear of her husband's potential for violence. Her friends and colleagues described a woman who was enduring consistent verbal and emotional abuse. The tension reached a point where Rebecca found it necessary to draft a message to her loved one saying, "If something ever happens to me, please make Tim the number one person of interest. I'm fearful he will harm me or take the kids away from me." It's a scary place to be in if that's what you're telling your friends and family, because you don't know the potential of the other person of what they could do. This message was read out loud by her sister, Sarah Riley, and it indicated that Rebecca was fearful of her estranged husband's escalating behavior, especially after their protracted divorce proceedings that started in 2021. Rebecca was particularly apprehensive about Tim taking their 3 sons away from her. Her fears were amplified by the knowledge that Tim had access to their guns and ammunition. As the assistant state's attorney, Josh Jones, reminded the court, the divorce proceedings were tragically cut short, with Rebecca's life brutally snuffed out. The defense maintained that the contentious divorce was not enough grounds for a murder conviction. Poignant detail emerged during the trial. Tim Bliefnick had appeared on the popular television show, and this is, if you're going, is this the Family Feud murder? Yes, this is the Family Feud murder. That seems to be what everybody ties it to. Wouldn't that's like such a sad thing, like of all the things that you've done in your life, you're tied to just being on Family Feud of everything.
And if I was her family member, that would really piss me off, actually. This is not anything to do with Family Feud. This is everything to do with my loved one.
Exactly. During the appearance on Family Feud, he told Steve Harvey, the host, that the question on the feud was, what's the biggest mistake on your wedding day? And he said, saying I do. This comment, viewed in retrospect, provides a very stark illustration of the animosity that had been brewing in the Bliefnick marriage. I can't imagine going on Family Feud, number one, but number two, giving that as your answer.
Well, and you're trying to match the big board, and so maybe, I don't know if it was like trying to match the board at the moment he said that, or it could have just been small talk between him and Steve Harvey, which is awkward.
I don't know. I don't know how one would say that. Even if you're in a bad marriage, I don't know that I would be saying that out loud. I don't know. I get it's Family Feud, but despite the avalanche of evidence presented, Tim Bliefnick did not take the stand in his own defense. Instead, his silence punctuated the courtroom proceedings, leaving those present to speculate on his thoughts and motivations. He maintained his innocence through a not guilty plea. But if the jury were to decide otherwise, he faces a grim prospect of spending the rest of his life behind bars. So that's kind of the summary of the case. There was no cameras allowed in the courtroom, and there was no audio either. So it's all
being tweeted out.
Yep.
There's a couple places tweeting in real time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting that the defense told jurors that a contentious divorce is not grounds for murder.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is in a lot of people's eyes. They get so angry at the other person. You hear that all the time. There's so many different things. Maybe somebody's having an affair.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's over the kids. Maybe it's over property. And the easiest way to get what they want is just to get rid of somebody, to kill them, and then they get what they want. And you hear that all the time.
No,
So
you
in
do.
his eyes, I don't know what other reason there would be for killing her. And they're like, there's some mysterious person who was roaming the neighborhood that did it. Who would that be? And why would they kill her?
Well, exactly. There's no motivation. There's no real motive for another killer in this case whatsoever. But everything does seem very much tied to, it's a contentious divorce. And one is not going to accept the other being a part of their children's lives, which is interesting because others said that when it came to their kids, neither of them seemed to feel like there was a risk involved with the other person parenting the kids in their own way. But clearly, if in fact he is guilty, maybe he did have some sort of fear, or she did, certainly. I know she'd mentioned issues with the guns that he had. But overall, obviously, just complete poor decision-making. And we should very likely see a verdict here very soon. And, of course, we'll report that to you.
You know what I think? I think it'll be pretty quick. I don't know.
We'll find out. I think it's kind of open and shut for the. I don't know. I've been wrong before, but the evidence, and I haven't been following this trial super close, but I've been reading on it throughout the days. It looks, beyond a reasonable doubt, I think, that he likely is the one behind this. But we'll let the jury play out, and we will find out what that verdict is. And as soon as we know, we will let you know right here.
The Hidden Killers Podcast.
Be sure to press subscribe wherever you download podcasts. You don't miss any of our breaking episodes and updates on the cases we're following for you right here, like that verdict in this case. You want an ad-free experience, you can get it through Apple Podcasts. If you subscribe there, you can also get access to every single one of our podcasts. All of them you get access to ad-free when you sign up through Apple Podcasts. So do check that out. I'm Tony Bruschi. For Carol, stay with us.